Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the segment of Code Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation for the day follows. Gauri Mahalla Panjama, Parbraham Puran Parmesar, Manata ki ot gahi jaire, Jin tare Brahmand Khand Har, ताको नाम जपी जय रे। रहाओ मन की मत त्यागो हर जन, हुक्म बूझे सुख पाइयै रे। जो प्रभ करे सोई भल मानो, सुख दुख ओही ध्याइयै रे। कोट पतित उदारे खिन मह, करते बार न लागै रे। दीन दर्द दुख भंजन सुआमी, जिस भावै तिसै निवाजै रे। सबको मात पिता प्रतिपालक, जी प्राण सुख सागर रे। देंदै टोट नाही तिस करते, पूर रह्यो रतनागर रे। जाचक जाचै नाम तेरा स्वामी, घट घट अंतर सोई रे। नानक दास ताकी सरनाई, चाहते बिरथा न कोई रे। जाचक जाचै नाम तेरा स्वामी, घट घट अंतर सोई रे। नानक दास ताकी सरनाई, जाते बिरथा न कोई रे। पारब्रह्म पूरन परमेसर, मनता की ओट गही जय रे। जिन तारे ब्रह्मंड खंड, हर ताको नाम जपी जय रे। This is the Rahao Pankti, and essentially the terms Parbraham Puran Parmesar are used to orient our consciousness, if you will, to the idea of an absolute. And what that means is that the absolute is not a thing in itself, but it signifies the unitive oneness of reality, which is not only unitive, but it is also the source of all diversity. It is complete and perfect, Puran, but not divorced from the finite and imperfect world. So there is perfection and imperfection together. They create this absolute, Parbraham Puran Parmesar. So the Guru says, Man taki ot gahi jare. Seek the support of that absolute. Or to put it another way, the absolute already is the support, except we don't know about it. And the Guru again reminds us in this Pankti, Jin tare brahmand khand har tako naam japi jere. My mind, meditate on the qualities of that Har, who fashioned the universe and planets. So in other words, really, what Guru Arjan is doing here is describing for us Ikwankar, the Ikwankar of the Mool Mantra, the Absolute. Now, we call it Har in Gurbani, among other names, but we have to remind ourselves that ultimately the Absolute cannot be named, because all names are manufactured. So let's see what the process here is. Man ki mat tyago harjan, hukam buje sukh paiye re. So, jo prabh kare soi pal mano, sukh dukh uhi tyaiye re. So, man ki mat tyago harjan, it's an invocation to the seekers, or seekers of the self. Discard the conditioned patterns of the mind Man ki mat tyago. And we shall see what that means. Happiness lies in cultivating an intuitive awareness and of harmonizing with hukam. Hukam booj sukh paiyere. And how do you do that? It's acceptance of whatever comes to pass. Jo prabh kare, soi pal manno. And whether you're happy or in sorrow, remain in a state of equanimous acceptance. Ohityayere. So we see that the mind here, ordinarily, when the Guru is telling us to discard the patterns of the mind, what is he trying to say? We try and unpack that to the best of our ability. The mind ordinarily concerns itself with knowledge of things and objects. It is the subject, and the rest of the universe is the object, if you will. And there is sensed this distinction between the observer and what is being observed. So when Guru Arjan says, Man ki mat tyago, philosophically what he is saying is that we have to reorient the mind when we deal with the Absolute, because it is not conditioned like things in the world are. So rather than being concerned with knowledge of these things and objects, because knowledge of the Absolute is impossible, one must reorient the mind to the activity of knowing, to understand how this knowing takes place, to intuit the relationship between the knower and the known. And so for this to happen, Guruji instructs us, Tako naam japi jere, instructs us to extract the knowledge and wisdom that is innate to creation. Tap into that. And that is a mystical awareness. And when that is practiced, what happens is the difference between the knower and the known vanishes. The individual realizes that it is not the independent center of experience it thought itself to be, but actually it is entwined in the process of life itself. It is akin to knowing that the wave and the ocean are not distinct, although they appear to be separate, but they are not. That is exactly the way Haume appears to be different, because it creates this fragmentation, but in reality there isn't. Kot patat udhare khin mein karte bar na lage re, deen dard dukh panjan swami, jis pave tise nivajya re, jis pave. So to incur the pleasure, in other words, to harmonize yourself with the order of things, with hukam, or that knowledge that we talked about, that is the source of happiness. It is the dispeller of deen dard dukh, the destroyer of pain and unhappiness. And this mystical awareness can come in a flash. Kot patit udare khin mein. Many have had this experience. And it happens, and it can happen in a flash. Karte bar na lagire. If the Creator so desires, this knowledge can come in a flash. So really the pointer is that the knowledge that the Guru is talking about comes through other faculties, not through the normal cognitive, discursive, linear knowledge that we pursue. And it is independent of time and space. That is why it can happen instantaneously, in a flash. Sabko mat pita pratapalak, जी प्राण सुख सागर रे, देंदा टोट नहीं नाही, तिस करते पूर रहो रतनागर रे. The protective father and mother to everyone. This is the realization. The sustainer of life, the ocean of bliss, giving without end, and it overflows with treasures, qualities essentially for us to imbibe. And therefore, in the concluding verse, Nanak the follower seeks shelter. In other words, seeking shelter is to acquire these qualities. Jachak jache naam tera Swami, ghat ghat antar soire. So Nanak the follower seeks your shelter from where no one returns disappointed. Jate birtha na koire. So this beggar, referring to himself, begs for the knowledge of the Master, who is present everywhere. So in conclusion, it is all about self-knowledge, because that destroys this sense of distinction that we have. So this is a realization. Things don't physically merge into a unity where you don't see the distinction between your physical body and other physical objects. It's a realization that dawns on you. On that note, until the next time, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.